protest. Izak, thank you so much for joining us. What do you think, what do you make of today's protest and the reaction from foreigners and the violence that erupted in Pretoria today?
In fact, I'm not looking at the protest, but I'm just looking at the organization that's come out there. Not only that, where this xenophobic thing is. In fact, this xenophobic thing right now is actually taking root in the sense that there are well-defined structures which have come up and which are calling for, we could say, right-wing groups which are actually advocating for the expulsion of fellow Africans, or immigrants. And that is very serious and it's very sad. Yeah.
Now, just watching a lot of the clips that we had a few minutes ago, the violence, the using of rubber bullets, the using of tear gas and things like that by South African police to sort of disperse the crowds and try and gain control of a situation that had gotten out of hand. How should the country react?
I think there's not much violence. I think when that word violence is too strong. They just sort of kept two groups apart, and there's not much violence. In fact, even with the South Africa First Group, or whatever it is, whatever they call themselves, they are a small group and they are not properly organized. We had a journalist there. He assessed them. The people are not well organized, and again, the police just sort of did not struggle much to keep the two groups apart. But where we are going, the mere fact that now anti-immigrant sentiments and actions is being organized into a group, and this group has got a name, I think should be registered. Now that is serious. It's very serious. I mean to say that, or even if they're not violent, it means to say that come 2019, issues of immigration will be in our political agenda, and I think there are people who are driving it there. I will not mention any names, but it's been forced there, so that by 2019 political parties will actually be forced to have policies on immigration. And the truth about the matter, there's a very big problem. And this problem is not a South African problem. It's an African problem. And it's not even an African problem. It's the problem of the global South. You'll find that there's a lot of immigration in the Americas. The global South, which consists of the Central American states and the South American states. People are trying to get to better areas. The Andean people from the Andes, that is, they're trying to get into Brazil. People from the other Central American and other Northern, they're trying to get into the USA. The same things happen in Asia. People trying to get into Australia. The Asiatic people are trying to get into Britain, and that is the Africans are trying to cross the Mediterranean into Europe. Others are trying to get to Israel, Saudi Arabia, where they've been deported. But it talks about one thing. It talks about the failure of the economic, sort of the neoliberal economic dispensation, the failure on the South, on the global South. And I think that's where the governments have got to actually look at their economic policies and actually sort of stick into this neoliberalism, which has failed the South. So
basically you're saying that governments should look at economic policies to ensure that this sort of reaction the immigration processes are sort of more lenient towards...
Not even that. I mean to say that what caused the problem of immigration? Unemployment, basically. In the global South, it is a neoliberalism. Issues which have come under globalization and whatnot. Those are the things that have actually sort of caused this unemployment and this crisis. So basically, government have got to look at, do they still want to continue with these policies? That's a very big question. Not only South Africa. South Africa has failed, Nigeria has failed, all countries have failed. They've got an excess of youths who are unemployed.
Long-term solutions that you're talking about, let's talk about the short term. In recent times, we've had eruptions of violence or, so to speak, xenophobic attacks and things like that. What are the solutions that we can deal with and look at present?
You know, when you talk about solution, you're talking about the old group which was called the moral rearmament, you know. And they're appealing to moral rearmament of people. People to realign their moral things, their love thy neighbor and whatnot, you know, Boy Scouts. And you see, now that thing won't solve problems, you know. I mean to say that again, I'm of the opinion or contention that basically this problem, it's more socio-economic than xenophobic. The cause is socio-economic, but it manifests itself in a xenophobic manner. Because we find that this whole issue, it is actually restricted amongst the marginalized group of society. Yeah, for the last, may I say, 10 years that we have been having, 9 to 10 years, xenophobic attacks. Yeah, they come from marginalized people in the marginalized classes, and also from the marginalized informal settlements, where people are actually fighting for the scant resources of labor, yeah, of work, yeah, and that's where the struggle is actually taking place. Now that in itself, it actually shows you that this is a socio-economic issue. If it was xenophobia, South Africans are xenophobic. I mean, this whole xenophobic thing, this hatred should be in all spheres, or all levels of society. Yeah.
Now let's look at Izak. Let's just look at South African businesses doing business on the rest of the continent in other African countries, where we've seen in Nigeria, in Abuja, for instance, where MTN Group offices were vandalized and attacked. Retaliation?
It's like that. I mean to say that unfortunately that's what it's going to. I mean to say the media says that South Africans are attacking their citizens, and it's all over. The BBC is there. The BBC Swahili service have actually got hold of Tanzanian street boys. I mean, this is a Swahili service, yeah, and they asked them about what's happening. Deutsche Welle went and got hold of people in the streets, and this news is all over. It's in Tanzania, it is in Nigeria, and from there, I mean, tempers are coming up, and people are actually sort of going to get hold of the first South Africa. It's a very bad time to be a South African outside South Africa.
Now, the Nigerian government has also come out and asked the African Union to intervene in what they call xenophobic attacks in South Africa. Your take on that?
How can they intervene? I mean, the thing that they should actually do is to actually sort of engage the South African government, and they should get down to the root cause. Yeah, you see, the root cause of the whole thing, it's varied. Yeah, it's not only socio-economic, and it's other things. And again, I mean to say, our friends, Oga men and their behavior, the hustling behavior, you know, in the streets and in the thing there, does not help the whole situation. I mean, when people talk of some of these people doing crime, it's not an empty call. Yeah, the answer is this: that, oh no, it's not only Nigerians, or it's not only crime did not come with the immigrants. But the truth about the matter is this: that certain particular crimes, they are overrepresented. Yeah, they're really overrepresented. Yeah, and one thing that should come up: I've not heard of any official of the Nigerian government talking to their own citizens to tell them to behave when they get to this thing. And that's a reality. The Nigerian government should actually the embassy should actually they know what's happening on the streets, or even my friends are there, the diaspora forum. Africa Diaspora Forum. They should actually talk to the problem. They should admit that there is a problem. There is a certain group of immigrants, I don't say all of them, that are actually involved in this thing. I have lived in Rosettenville. I lived there in Prairie. And that's in 2007, I personally tackled Nigerian boys on Derering and Main Street, talking about pimping, because of pimping young South African girls, some as young as 14, 15. And I was actually tackling them about that. And they say that, well, this thing is taking place all over the world. And the place we were staying just side opposite, it was a den. People were selling drugs there. And it was an Oga man doing that. But so, if you talk about that, they say that, no, you're becoming xenophobe. But it's the truth. But I mean to say that we should all try to come and solve this, to try to fight this thing. the African diaspora forums, they should actually talk to their people also, to tell them to stop doing such things. But Tswana bari kapa sipe sesi hulukisa mueng. If you're a visitor in a place and you go and spoil that, they're going to deal with you brutally. That's the Tswana thing, because you have not built that area.
Izak, we have to leave it there. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
That was political analyst Izak Khomo joining us in studio to just chat about the violence and xenophobic attacks that have been taking place in different parts of South Africa at this point in time.